Good evening and welcome to the Carnegie Town Hall. This meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council will begin in a few moments. The City Council meets on the first, second, and third Tuesday of each month at 7 o'clock p.m. and serves as the city's policy-making and legislative body. Each meeting is governed by Robert's Rules of Order unless those guidelines conflict with city ordinance or charter. City Council meetings offer an opportunity for citizens to speak directly to their elected representatives. Those in attendance are invited to address the Council during the public input segment at the beginning of the agenda. At that time, any issue that is not subject to formal action later in the agenda can be addressed. Testimony that concerns a resolution or an ordinance's second reading is only allowed when those specific agenda items are being addressed by the Council. When addressing the Council, citizens should speak directly into the microphones at the podium and state their names for the record after being recognized by the chair. To accommodate and respect all viewpoints, citizen comments are limited by ordinance to no more than 5 minutes each. Comments should be respectful and focused on providing new information that will benefit the Council's deliberative process. The Chair reserves the right to limit the number of speakers. City Council meetings are broadcast live on CityLink and online at www.siouxfalls.org. Information regarding the City Council, its committees, meetings, briefings, and members is available by visiting www.siouxfalls.org/council or by calling the Council office at 605-367-8085. Thank you for your interest in Sioux Falls City government.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. We certainly appreciate your attendance, and if you're watching on TV, thanks for watching us at home as well. Today is Tuesday, September 20th, and we'd like to introduce you to your City Council.
Council members Rolfing. Here. Selberg. Here. Starr. Present. Staley.
Here.
Erickson. Here. Erpenbach.
Here.
Kiley. Here. Neitzer. Here.
Councilors, thank you for being here tonight. Thanks for your service. In Sioux Falls, we lead our City Council meetings with an invocation. And one of the folks who's here leading us is someone who's here quite often. And Dr. Ron Tottingham, thank you for coming back. Appreciate it. He's with the Empire Baptist Temple here in Sioux Falls. And what we'd ask you to do is to stand for Dr. Ron's invocation. And then please remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Ron?
This evening for your service for our city. I've been in a lot of them. This is the greatest city in the world, and I appreciate you folks for doing what you do. Our Father, tonight, thank you for the privilege of being able to live in a city like this, and thank you for our city commission who are willing to give their time and sacrifices to help our city. I pray that you'd give them the hedge of Job and wisdom and insight and integrity to continue to lead our city so that it stays the greatest city in the world. Bless this city as only you can, and bless our commission as only you can. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for being here tonight. Is there anybody here for please come forward. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Good to have you back. Good to see you. Would you mind just introducing yourself to the people of our city, please? Thank you.
I'm Phyllis Ahrens. I'm Executive Director of NAMI Sioux Falls, one of the 9 affiliates throughout the state.
I'm Wayne Ahrens, volunteer for the NAMI Sioux Falls.
Well, thank you for being here tonight. I do have a proclamation that I'd love to read on behalf of the people of our city. The proclamation reads, whereas serious mental illnesses such as major depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, obsessive compulsive disorder, severe anxiety disorders, borderline personality disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorders affect 1 in every 4 people annually, including more than 33,000 people in Sioux Falls. Folks, we have 173,300 people that live here, and there's 33,000 people that are battling some mental illness challenges. They will have a diagnosable mental illness in that given year, whereas severe mental illnesses are more common than cancer, than diabetes, than heart disease, and are the #1 reason for hospital admissions nationwide. Whereas serious mental illnesses have been scientifically proven to be highly treatable illnesses of the brain. Whereas scientific research in producing tremendous breakthroughs in the understanding of mental illness, resulting in more effective treatments that allow people to reclaim full and productive lives. Whereas misunderstandings exist about many mental illnesses, and our social culture often wrongly imposes stigma upon them. Whereas Sunday, October 2nd, 2016 marks the beginning of National Mental Illness Awareness Week, and NAMI Sioux Falls is sponsoring a vigil and candlelight walk with the goal of lighting the path to understanding. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, proud mayor of the city of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim October 2nd through the 8th of this year as National Mental Illness Awareness Week in Sioux Falls. Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. Thanks for all you do. Do you want to share anything? How do we get people to that walk?
It's at First Lutheran Church. Come. We have a scripture service at 6 o'clock that evening. The program starts at 6:30. We have great speakers, some wonderful music, and then we go for a little 8-block walk with our candles. Come back for fellowship at First Lutheran Church.
Remind them of the date one more time.
Sunday, September 2nd.
It's not, oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay, we didn't have that in. So Sunday, October 2nd marks the beginning.
Yep. Yep. So Sunday, October 2nd. Is the day of the candlelight vigil, which is the start of Mental Illness Awareness Week.
Okay, but the walk.
The walk is Sunday evening, October 2nd.
All right, very good.
Yep, sorry.
Sunday, folks, Sunday, October 2nd, be there. And let's give them a round of applause, please. Thank you. Well, Council, thank you. We do have a consent agenda. Would anybody want to approve that consent agenda?
So moved, Rolfing.
Second, Erickson.
Council Chair Rolfing has made a motion to approve our consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Erickson. If no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing,
Yes.
Selberg. Yes. Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kiley. Yes. Neitzer. Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you, Council. Our regular agenda tonight, any changes to that, Council?
We need to move to approve it first.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Council Chair Rolfing has made a motion to approve our agenda,
Second,
seconded by Councilor Erpenbach.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, thank
I
you,
would make
Councilor.
a motion to amend the regular agenda by moving item 16 before item 12.
Second, Erickson.
There's been a motion to move item 16 before item 12. That was done by Council Chair Rolfing, seconded by Councilor Erickson. If there's no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kiley. Yes. Neitzer. Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Council Chair.
I would like to make another motion to amend the agenda by an item 17 by replacing the word barrels with the word pounds.
Second, Erickson.
There's been a motion to amend agenda item 17 by replacing the word barrel with the word pounds. It was done by Council Chair Rolfing, seconded by Councilor Erickson. If there's no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kiley. Yes. Neitzer. Yes.
Councilors, thank you. That is passed 8-0. Councilors, we now have an amended agenda for tonight. Would anybody want to make a motion to approve that tonight?
Move to
Oh, we
approve,
did?
Erickson.
We're good then? Okay, I guess we... We'll say it that way. Thank you, David. We'll vote on the motion as amended. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Been doing this 7 years. I'm still learning, so thank you. Folks, great opportunity for public input. This is an opportunity for you to engage the council on really any topic that is of interest to you. Really, two things. We'd ask you to state your name so the people of Sioux Falls know who you are. And then if you could just keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, we'd appreciate that as well. Welcome. Please come forward.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City Council people, City Attorney. My name is June Staggers. At the 4 o'clock meeting, it ended with an executive session with closed doors. First, what does an executive session mean and when does it occur? Initially, I thought it was primarily for personnel or contractual matters. Please educate me on this matter. Furthermore, as a citizen of Sioux Falls, I believe you all should reduce the number of closed-door sessions that you have. The public likes transparency, and public officials should be allowed to represent their electorate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Staggers. Appreciate that. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
Good evening. I'm John Nordley and live at 404 North Locust Avenue. On behalf of the Oakview Neighborhood Association and Shape Oakview Committee, I wish to thank our mayor and council for listening as we talked, read countless emails, and responding to our concerns about development and zoning of the Lacey Estate, an urban oasis in the Oakview neighborhood. This was and will continue to be a difficult subject for me to weigh in on, as the property owners, the Browns, and Craig and Pat Lloyd are personal friends. Last week's withdrawal of the zoning request by Lloyd Properties was anticlimactic, and unfortunately, no one can say there was a winner. All parties, the owners, the developers, the realtor, the neighborhood, all lost. This when I thought we were close to a compromise that would have been a win-win for all. On the other hand, perhaps there was a winner, and that was the Oakview Neighborhood Association. We gathered over 200 households in opposition to the Lloyd development of the Lacey Estates as initially presented in less than 2 months. After a 3-year slow start, we are officially organizing, and we intend to continue to work at finding a solution to the development of this property so all parties can be winners. Our association has learned much over the last few months and will continue to identify concerns and seek solutions to the betterment of our neighborhood and Sioux Falls. And I thank you for the support of the neighborhood associations. On a more personal note, I, as a 34-year member and past president of Downtown Rotary, I wish to thank you for your support of Rotary Park. Thank you all.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that. Folks, anybody? Welcome.
I know, right? I'm just thinking, shit, I'm looking right at them.
Oh, this is the wrong one. This is the last one. That's from the past. Scott, would you want to go first? Thank you. David, if you would just kind of move. Scott, welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Scott Erisman, Sioux Falls. Not too long ago, I was listening to the Land Use Committee talk about the possible selling of the Cirque building to the Glory House. And there's talked about some precedents there, and didn't know if there was any precedents. Well, there have been a couple. One of them is the Safe House. We opened the Safe House and helped fund the Safe House because there was repeat offenders costing the city and the county a lot of money. and we have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars by housing these people there. Another example was the city used to rent the horse barn for $1 a year to the Sioux Empire Arts Council, and that was pretty valuable in the world of the arts. People from the Parks Department in the city said that the building was of value and that they needed to hold on to it because they were speculating, and they're being land speculators, I guess, and trying to make some money. But what is the real value here? The real value here, similar to the safe house or the horse barn, is the value of keeping ex-criminals out of jail and saving taxpayers lots and lots of money by doing that. Even if we gave the building away, we would be saving taxpayers money. We could lease the building. We could contract for deed for the building and the land. The other thing about it is they talk about the 49th Street expansion. Well, the Glory House is not going anywhere. They're at where they're at. So why not expand the building right where they're at and do it there? I've had the experience of working for an employer who hires people from the Glory House. Now, some of them don't work out for the reasons that the directors talked. A lot of them do, and the ones that do are very long-term employees. But they do struggle finding housing. I know, because I've worked with several of them. I mean, they pull their hair out because they have a certain amount of time they can be there, and then they're out on their own, and nobody will rent to them. And I think that it would be a good thing, a good deed on part of the city to either, sell the building for a minimal amount, lease it, contract for deed. I mean, we lease the Phillips Avenue Diner. The city leases the space for them. The diner, they don't own the land that they're sitting on. The city owns it. So there's lots of precedences here, and I think moving forward, the city should look into that. I want to talk a little bit about what happened at 4 o'clock, and I'll try to do my best not mention any names of anybody that's sitting up here. But I did spend some time over the past hour looking up court cases that have to do with conflicts of interest, free speech of counselors, and there's a lot of them. What I found from reading a lot of the cases is that it really comes down to counselors are limited with free speech when it comes to conflicts. So in other words, if they're using their free speech to sway the other counselors to vote for one of their friends' project, or if they're having private phone conversations between each other trying to sway a certain vote or to do something else. The federal courts have stomped down on it and said you're not protected by free speech. Talking to the media, talking to citizens, talking in general, as long as you're not talking about anything that's legal or contractual, it's well within a counselor's right to talk to whoever they want to. Now, a lot of people don't understand this, but I've been following city politics close to 12 years. This isn't new. What happened today at 4 o'clock isn't new. It just came to its boiling point. When Munson was mayor and he was running for a second term, he signed a contract in the middle of the night, and it was a possible violation of law. One of the counselors, I believe his name was Kevin Kavanaugh, was going to file charges against Mr. Munson. Well, guess what? He didn't file the charges. He was intimidated and bullied by other people in the community to shut his mouth. I've also seen Kermit Staggers bullied and intimidated several times. This has come to a boiling point. Counselors have a right to speak to the media. They have a right to speak to citizens. And on top of that all, the leadership is your peers. They don't have any power over you. They can't tell you who to talk to. Their job is to run a meeting. That's it. That's the only power they have. They think they have more power than that, but they don't. You're all equals up here, and you're all elected officials, and you do get a wage from the city, but I don't consider you a public employee. You're elected to represent us, and you're elected to give us as much information as possible. I can tell you that at least 3 of the counselors sitting up here who ran in this last election ran on transparency, transparency, transparency. That was the leg of what they ran on.
Scott,
they want it. So.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. And thanks for coming up early. I appreciate that. David, welcome.
Got to turn on my timer. Anyway, I'm David Zokaitis. and I'm here to talk about the proposed administrative building. Now, I don't really have much of an opinion on whether the building needs to go up or not, because I need more data. Without data, I can't make an assessment. But I do have an opinion on how we need to talk about the building. And there's been a little too much acrimony, and I would like to see all that get washed away, and more peace and harmony and all that cool stuff. Okay. So, we had a petition. Went through some petition process, it was registered, but not reviewed, and then it was later ejected. Now, this just looks really bad. It looks like the city tries to set people up to not do petitions, and whether or not that's actually the case isn't really so important as looking bad, because if it looks bad, it feels bad. So I'd kind of like to recommend cleaning up a mess. And, you know, there's been acrimony going back and forth, and people accuse each other, and we don't need that. So to clean up the mess, I would like to see somebody just apologize for the confusion. Now, that's not the same as accepting blame. It's just trying to clear things up. And, you know, the process should be corrected so that this kind of thing never happens again. It's a way to build trust and rapport between citizens and council. Okay. And then, you know, if we get some trust going, then the people who accuse the city of being nefarious could have cause to apologize. Doesn't that sound great? And then clean things up. And then, you know, we've got this petition that 6,000 people signed, and I would like to see the city honor and acknowledge that petition in some formal manner. Don't know what the best way is. Maybe you could make a resolution, maybe a referendum, maybe some kind of election. But this accomplishment should be acknowledged in some formal manner, and I'll leave that exact implementation up to you, because that's your job. Sometimes when people get excited about something, they exaggerate a little bit, and then it gets harder to analyze the issues for what the issues really are. So if at all possible, unrealistic claims should be substantiated or retracted. And if I ever come up here and say something that's totally off the wall, call me on it. I'll come back and say I screwed up. Don't need pride. Okay, now, when the city wants to build something, well, we go through this kind of a step. You need to sell bonds, you get bids, you get a contract, start construction. But one thing I've learned is that you can stop the process anywhere you want to, and you don't get nailed for it. So people are trying to say that the deal is done, and I'm saying, no, it's not done. It's not done until it's halfway up. Then you better finish it. But until then, it's not done. All right. So I've heard a variety of justifications for this new building, but I haven't seen any numbers. I've heard guesses that it's going to improve efficiency. Well, how much is that going to save? And I've heard estimates that, you know, we've got growing staff, but I haven't seen any numbers. Well, I'm a data scientist, among other things, so I found some numbers. And here we are. The purple line is a number of city staff over the last 10 years, definitely going up. The red line is a first order approximation of the trend. It's a linear fit, should be a logarithmic fit, but best I could do overnight. Looks like we're going to need some more space. 50 people in the next 5 years, 100 people. We're going to need some space. We'll need some spot to put them. But there's a whole series of unanswered questions along with this, like which offices are going to be combined, what are you going to do with the underutilized space, other construction building options. So the proposal needs more work, it needs more data. But when the city goes and tries to shove something through without data, and when you avoid petitions, it just looks bad. Whether or not it is bad is a different question, but it looks bad. So I'm recommending that all of this mess get cleaned up and present more data to the citizens so we can take a better look at this large proposal and evaluate it in a reasonable manner. And with that, I bid everybody a good evening.
Thank you, David. Well, folks, thank you. Okay. Folks, is there anybody else who wants to engage the council? If you'd just be ready, we'd appreciate it. Welcome.
Bruce Danielson, Sioux Falls. It's nice to see the press has a new spot this week, and we can keep playing musical chairs and see where they land next week. They could be back over here. They could be just about anywhere, I guess. Isn't it funny how insecure people have a way of becoming authoritarians and rulers versus leaders? You're not a team. You never were designed to be a team. Anyone who says you are doesn't understand any part of this process. You're a legislature. Legislatures are varying groups of people, ideas that come together to accomplish something. What we've been seeing is a group of people have decided to run this thing as if they're cracking a whip down on the old plantation. You're not placed in your chairs to be a go-along, get-along team player. Each of you has strengths and weaknesses and must work together to pass legislation. You're not to be a unified team no matter what anyone says. This is a body organized to do the people's work. Do not confuse the fact that you were elected to a body called City Council and feel in any way that you're only to do your work only as a team. You're not a homogeneous family. Don't pretend to be one. Don't hide your disagreements. This afternoon was a shameful abuse by the ruler of the meeting process. Some of you actually ran on principles, and the people voted to put you in your chair because of those principles. The fact that you're currently warming a chair in front of us means the voters chose you to add to the dialogue. We, the people, do not like it when you feel you can browbeat or threaten members who choose to follow their own principles. Using authoritarian rules pulled from unknown places is not a way to govern. Those who attend these meetings regularly and follow the process see games being played. We really saw it over the last 2 months. And now next week in Judge Salter's courtroom, we'll watch the city attorneys work to put the people back in their place of submission and servitude. We fight on because we can. When you pay attention to this body, it's easy to see what's going on. Once we see it, we video it and report it. That's why those cameras are in the back of the room. That's why those cameras are sitting here. We all want to know what's going on here. We fight on because we can. When you pay attention to this body, it's easy to see what's going on. Once we see it, we video it and report it. Just remember that. We are documenting the continuing use of the illegal executive sessions and are currently deciding what to do about it. We're counting 6 of them right now just for this year. Our 6,400 signers know the administration is gaming the system again, and it was proven again today, and we're just supposed to accept it. Just remember there's an election in about 19 months. Some of you are term limited and aren't going to be sitting up there anymore. There may even be a re-election campaign with questionable results. Just consider what you tried to do today, last week, and over the last months. Some of us plan to help the voters not forget. Aw, shucks. And you might miss out on more pretty lunches. Thank you.
Folks, is there anybody else who wanted to engage? Ma'am, I apologize. Is there anybody else who wanted to engage the council? Welcome.
Tim Stanga.
Hi, Tim.
One thing I've learned for coming up here is we have a double standard. The public, when we try to talk to city councilors or talk bad about the mayor, we get gabbled or we're told to sit down. But during meetings, there's people on the city council that can down talk to public people. Yeah, nobody says anything about it. See, I was named one of the troubled 5. And I've always told you I'm proud of being a troublemaker because it's in my blood. But one thing that I want to say is, Teresa, I have never had so many phone calls after 6 o'clock on my phone stating that they appreciate what you finally did. This is something that Kermit should have came out and did a long time ago, 7 years ago, because he was bullied. Everybody pushed him to the limit. He was chastised when he would talk. He was made fun of. And the sad part about it is, a lot of the city councilors are told, watch who you talk to. You don't want to talk to the troublemakers. You don't want to talk to anybody that's going to write anything down or to be able to tell the truth. The problem is, you are elected by the people of Sioux Falls. And I'll tell you what, people out there do realize there's people that work for the citizens of Sioux Falls. There's people that work for probably the 10 that tell us what to do out of Sioux Falls. I believe that this town is not run by the people. It's run by a certain amount of people. And these people have an agenda. This is what we want done, this is what we need done, and you get it done for us and we will take care of you later on. Whether it's the next election or whether or not you need a job after you're done on the city council and the mayor. City council and the mayor's office is so corrupt, it isn't even funny. I have never seen so much corruption in my life. Whatever happened to open government? What happened to transparency? I think you guys should really look at what happened today. I think there's some people that do owe somebody an apology on how they acted. Because I'll tell you what, people on Sioux Falls watched it on TV today, and they're going to watch it at 10 o'clock. And they're going to find out who really thinks they run Sioux Falls and who is here for the people of Sioux Falls.
Folks, is there anybody else who wanted to engage the council tonight? Welcome.
Board SIRE Sioux Falls. As you well know, that I'm going to be talking on these officers at the police department. Won't go into specifics, but not just one, but 5 or 6 policemen is disciplined for their actions, for being unprofessional and other stuff that occurred in the jailhouse. It is my understanding that they're going to get training. It's my understanding that Minnehaha County is going to get training and Lincoln County is going to get training on this issue. I've been sitting at council meetings for galore. I have to take up for the police on this issue because I have to bring back the LGBT community of what just happened to trust back into the police, to call police and domestic abuse stuff, because in LGBT, this is pulling away from the trust of the community versus the police department here. Not all policemen are corrupted like these policemen that did what they did. An investigation that was presented, I was treated fair by Captain Mixel and the lieutenant and the sergeant on the west side. I was very pleased with that. I have to stress and say that just because we have these bad officers that did what they did does not mean that all the police is like this. I'm not going to mention the names because the names of these people, it's a done deal, and they're going to get disciplined for their actions. Putting their names out to the media, I can understand if it was brushed underneath the table and they said there was not sustained, then you put stuff out to the media. My video to the media today was good enough for me. I know on council, y'all might have LGBT people, your son, your brother, whoever, I know of them on council. You have to take this into consideration and push that we need LGBT training throughout the whole staff of Sioux Falls, not just the police department. The fire department and city officials need to, Mayor. We talked about these body cameras on these police officers, and to my understanding and my knowledge, according to Captain Mixel, is in 2018 with some of the cars that they're going to be getting to wait to 2018, so when they replace the cars, then they can do the body cameras so they can go under one server. So I'm assuming what he told me is the equipment that they have now is okay for right now until 2018, but those body cameras need to come into place here. They really do. And I'm not saying that the police department's corrupted. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But I'm not pleased with these 5 to 6 officers. I'm not pleased with Minnehaha County and the Lincoln County Police Department. I'm not going to go into details because it's not fair. They go through enough stress, enough PTSD, enough divorce cases, and enough suicides within police departments. But this was not called for whatsoever. I believe that Captain Mixon and Chief Burns will take this up and to the highest level of discipline that they need to on this officer. The other officers, I like to thank one of the officers for taking up for me in the jailhouse. I understand it was inappropriate, and I understand that this officer got disciplined because it shouldn't have been said like it was said. But Mayor, and like I stressed to y'all before, we got issues on the streets. We got LBGT issues that need to be trained on. We are back 20 years behind time. I've talked to policemen, and they said the crime here is getting bad. They're stressing. Police officers are stressing. Will they come to the police? Will they come to the input? No, because it's political here. But we have crime that is rising here. We need policemen to stay up onto this crime. I'm sure it's hard on the chief of policemen to organize all of his policemen here, but we need to get to the hardcore issues and stop pushing everything under the table thinking that Sioux Falls is a beautiful place to live. We have this LGBT issues that we need to get straight, and I'm hoping that the mayor puts to where all city officials are trained on the sensitivity issue like the police department's going through. We want city officials like this to go through. I've talked to Captain Pat Starr, and I talked to Greg Neitzert, and they were willing to look at the training and see if they can attend the training. I encourage y'all to get a hold of Colleen to see if y'all can go through the training as well, police-to-police training, as well as the Department of Justice training that they have. More than welcome to do that. I see some of y'all nodding heads. I see body language in here, but it's an issue. It's a sensitivity issue, and we are diverse. You don't want the LGBT community to leave like they already are to go to Minneapolis because of stuff that happens like this. We want to try to get the people back into the community. Thank you.
Sierra, thank you as well. Appreciate it. Folks, thank you. Item number 7, Council.
Item number 7. New 2016-17 retail malt beverage license for the Medina Otban, the Red Lion Coffee Shop, 1122 North Weber Avenue, CUP not required. Item 8, transfer of 2016-17 retail malt beverage license with video lottery terminals from Boys and Girls Clubs of the Sioux Empire, Burnside Game Place, 1605 West Burnside Avenue, to Arcia Incorporated, Burnside Game Place, 1605 West Burnside Avenue, with conditional use permit 5416-2016 being reviewed on September 7, 2016. Number 9, transfer of 2016 retail wine license from Boys and Girls Clubs of the Sioux Empire, Burnside Game Place, 1605 West Burnside Avenue, to Arcia Incorporated, Burnside Game Place, 1605 West Burnside Avenue, with conditional use permit 5416-2016 being reviewed on September 7, 2016. Special one-day malt beverage license for Fernson Brewing Company to be operated at the Great Outdoor Store, 201 East 10th Street, for the Merrill Boots and Beer event on September 22, 2016. Item 11, special one-day malt beverage and one-day wine licenses for Catering America Incorporated, Chef Dominique's to be operated at Avera Health Clinic, 2100 South Marion Road, for a private event on October 4, 2016.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. Items 7, 8, and 9, the applicants are present if you have additional questions for them. And 9, 10, and 11 are special one-day requests.
Jamie, thank you. Council, any questions on these or comments? Motions?
Move to approve, Erickson.
Councilor Erickson has made a motion to approve these items, seconded by Councilor
Staley.
Was that Staley? Thank you, Councilor Staley. Thank you. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing? Yes. Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you, Council. Item 16.
Item 16, a resolution adopting the budget for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2017, and the 2017 to 2021 capital program.
Tracy, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Tracy Turback with the Finance Office. I have just a few brief remarks on the 2017 budget and capital program, but before that, I do want to take just a minute and thank everyone involved in the budget process that brings us to this point tonight. It's a long journey to get here. Certainly want to thank the council members for the time and effort that you folks put into this. This is perhaps one of the most important things that you do all year long in terms of setting the plan for the coming year and for the 5-year capital program. The mayor certainly commits a significant amount of his own time to developing the budget, meeting with his directors and budget teams. So I want to thank the mayor and the department directors and their teams as well. They really approach this in a very professional manner to do what's best for the community, to serve the needs of the community and provide the vital services that their individual departments provide to the community. Last but not least, I certainly want to thank my finance team. I get the pleasure every day of going to work with some of the best people in the community. They are very, very dedicated, passionate, and committed to doing what's right for the community, and I'm proud to call them my team. With that, the budget resolution that's before you tonight does really two things. First of all, it approves the entire 2017 city budget for all city funds. That budget total for this proposed budget is about $466.6 million. It covers all 22 funds, both appropriated and non-appropriated funds. The second thing that the budget resolution does is to approve the 5-year capital improvement program for the years 2017 through 2021. The total 5-year capital program before you tonight is about $589.2 million. And with that, I would ask for council approval of that resolution. Thank you.
Tracy, thank you as well. Folks, did anybody want to engage the council on this resolution? Councilors? Did you want, please come forward, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. For the record, George Hahn. I've lived here all my life. For many years, really a couple of decades, I've closely followed the budgeting process, the capital outlay process, and I understand it. I understand the number crunching. I understand the commitment that we are making of taxpayer funds toward running the city for the next year and laying out funds for necessary requirements the city has for the next 5 years. The city has had to admit we are in an era, even though it's only about 7 or 8 months old, of revenue shortfalls from projections that were made as far back as late last year. I could get into the macroeconomics of it starting back in 2007, but I'm not going to have enough time to do that. But it has culminated in the fact that, without question, we're in a revenue downward spiral, small one. And there could be some other ramifications we're not going to be made aware of until after the presidential election and the inauguration of whomever wins takes place in January. What provisions does the city have in place to pare back any annual budget or any one or multiple years of the capital outlay events in such a situation of continued revenue shortfall? I don't know the answers. I hope you do. Thank you.
George, thank you. Appreciate that. Folks, anybody else? Very good. Councilors?
Second, Urbanbach.
Councilor Chair Rolfing, it's been a motion to adopt the resolution, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Discussion.
We have some amendments.
Clerk.
Any amendments, folks?
He's going to read them.
You're going to read them off, Tom?
I'll read the first one off, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Tom.
The first amendment is a motion to amend the main motion by Councilor Rolfing to amend the 2017 Transit Fund budget by increasing the operating agreement by $28,000 to increase advertising to be funded by the Transit Fund unobligated fund balance.
Mr. Mayor?
Second, Urbanbach.
Thank you. Thank you. So Councilor Rolfing has made that amendment, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Rolfing?
I sent a fairly lengthy description of why this was needed and what we're working on. In fact, today we were discussing how the quit smoking advertising marketing program had been out and done such a good job. We think that with some extra marketing funds, we can increase ridership. significantly with the transit system, and that's what this money would go for. Now, please be aware that it is not going to, it's not money is taken away from anything. This is on funds that are already in the transit contract and will be just used, that are unused at this point, just used to supplement the already 22,000 that's there and bring it up to 50, which is about the same that other departments saving your waste. I mean, aluminum cans and all that kind of thing. Sorry, recycling has had for a number of years that will allow them to do such a good job. In fact, we've done a great job in Sioux Falls of recycling. We'd like to see more go toward the transit system to increase that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
No.
That is passed 7-1. Amendment 2.
A motion to amend the main motion by Councilor Rolfing to amend the 2017 general fund budget by increasing the city council budget by $60,000 from the unobligated fund balance to fund the internal audit manager transition plan.
Second, Selberg.
Councilor Rolfing has made an amendment recommendation, and it was seconded by Councilor Selberg. Councilor Rolfing?
Yes, this is a personnel issue, basically, that as Rich Oaksall retires, he will have some back pay or different things like that that will need to be paid, and that because he's under the old system and things. And so that is the funds. We were not aware of that until after the budget had been prepared, or we could have put it right in. But because it's not in there now, we need to put it in there because Mr. Oaksall is retiring as of the 20th of January. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Councilor Erpenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor
You
and
bet.
Mr. Chair. Question then, when you call it an internal audit manager transition plan, does that also include training in a new person similar to what we did with the city clerk?
I'm going to ask Mr. Bixler to come forward and help answer that question.
I should have known that, but I don't.
Yeah.
Good evening. David Bixler, Budget Analyst for the City Council. That does not include any transition plan as far as coverage from one employee to another. The new auditor will be brought on board in 2016.
Okay, thank you.
I would offer one correction, if I may, Mayor. That is that the new auditor will be brought in, according to plan right now, in 2017 as of January 3rd. So there will be a little bit of a holdover, if you will, doubling up for about 3 weeks.
3 weeks worth?
Yeah,
Okay.
in a training session.
Okay. I think that's valuable. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Rolfing.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Amendment 3.
A motion to amend the main motion by Councilor Neitzer to amend the 2017 general fund budget by reducing $90,000 from highway and streets and increasing the transfer to the Community Development Fund $90,000 and increasing the affordable housing budget within the Community Development Fund to provide an additional $90,000 to support the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Neitzer's made a motion to amend the general fund budget, and it was seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Neitzer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This simply recognizes that the Bishop Dudley House is open 12 months of the year, where the Warming House, which we funded previously, was only open 3 months of the year. So we're taking our current funding and multiplying it by 4. I believe this organization provides a critical humanitarian service. It saves the city money in multiple ways, and it provides, most importantly, a hand up, not a handout. I urge your support. Thank you.
Councilor Erpenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councilor Neitzer, for your leadership on this project. It's been important that we've all been involved with this and understood the value of this organization. I think it's important to understand, though, too, that the Bishop Dudley House is funded mostly by private dollars. It really is one of those things that eventually government funds aren't going to necessarily be what they need, and so in addition to us kind of giving them a little lift up for 2017, I'm going to encourage our citizens and those people that are in a position of being able to give to make that part of your stewardship dollars for years to come. That this is really, as Councilor Neisert said, it's one of those things that those are people that are the least and the lost, and it's part of our role as fellow citizens to be to care for them. So I too would urge your support for this one-time money.
Councilor, thank you. Councilor Rolfing.
Yes,
Councilor Chair Rolfing, sorry.
That's okay. While I support this, Councilor Neisert, could you tell me exactly where that money is coming from out of the highway and streets?
I can speak to that.
Is there a project that is going to be not done or what?
No, there is not, Mr. Chair. It would be just $90,000 that we would allow the Highways and Streets Department to manage that. It doesn't include anything that would be capital. It's not anything that has anything to do with construction of streets. It also has nothing to do with labor and benefits. It really is only operating money that we've moved out of Highways and Streets and into that Affordable Housing Fund to be able to fund the Bishop Dudley line item.
Councilor, thank you.
Okay.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Staley,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Kiley,
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Amendment 4.
A motion to amend the main motion by Councilor Erpenbach to amend the 2017 general fund budget by reducing $103,500 from highway and streets and increasing the police budget $103,500 to fund youth, drug, and alcohol counseling.
Second, Erickson.
Councilor Erpenbach has made a motion to amend the general fund budget, seconded by Councilor Erickson. Councilor Erpenbach?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is actually in response to a reduction that was proposed from the administration regarding, and the line item at that time was called Prairie View Prevention, and that you'll see in the description that we're changing that description to youth, drug, and alcohol counseling so that it becomes more of a generic term. It really is one of those things that this is a passion of the councils, that we know that this is part of our role in the community, that this is something that we have been funding through the school system for many, many years, and I don't want to speak collectively, but I feel collectively about this, that we felt like it was something that was cut in haste, that it is something that we need to look more closely at. And so then with council support, then it would be our hope, Councilor Erickson and I have worked on this pretty heavily, and we've also spoken with Mrs. Jensen from the Prairie View Prevention Center. We would like to run this through immediately into our fiscal committee so that we start looking at our relationship not only with that money, because the contract for youth, drug, and alcohol counseling right now, the contract is between the Sioux Falls Public Schools and the Prairie View Prevention Center. And so it would be our hope that it becomes some sort of a more collaborative relationship, that there may be a three-way contract so that if the city continues to fund this in some way, shape, or form, that it would be more collaborative. So it's not exactly in the motion, but it is our expectation that this would go directly to fiscal to be reviewed and ready for the beginning of the next school year so that this funding allows them to get through this school year intact. I urge your support.
Councilor Erpenbach, thank you. Councilor Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would echo what Councilor Erpenbach said. I know a lot of us had conversations with Mrs. Jensen, as well as the police chief, as well as others in the administration. And I think everyone that was involved in that, through our conversations with our staff and Councilor Erpenbach, we really talked about having more oversight with the contract. Right now, it's, like Councilor Erpenbach said, it's with the school district. We want to make sure that that contract is really between what are the needs, how are we accessing, having access to those students. We heard just a couple of weeks ago a report by Mary Michaels about how important preventative services are. And I think in her presentation, that word came up over and over and over, and how we get such a bang for our buck with preventative services. And so it's so important for us, as the state is studying this task force as well, that we also make it a priority continue to have the great relationship that we have with the school district and having easy access to those students that we can then offer these services to our community. I do support having it go through Fiscal and studying it. What will it look like when it comes out? I'm not sure. We've had those conversations with Darcy as well, but we know that it's an important thing in our community that we want to make sure that we are funding and that we are overseeing this particular project. So I'd urge your support for this as well.
Councilor Erickson, thank you. Councilor Starr?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. I'm supporting this tonight, and thank you, Councilor Erpenbach and Councilor Erickson, for your leadership on this, moving this forward. My concern is with this is that if we made this proposed cut, we would be leaving a lot of young people without services, without a plan to move forward. So I'm willing to go along for another year. It's never easy to cut funds from a program, but at the same time, there has to be an end date. The process has to improve, and I'm looking forward to being part of making this better and providing the preventative services, because that's what's important to the young people of our community. It's helping them thrive even after they've made a mistake, to get them the help that they need to be productive citizens. It's a workforce development issue as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Councilor Starr, thank you. Councilor Sherolfing?
While I'm going to support this, I would urge the Fiscal Committee to work closely with the Sioux Falls school system, because they have a direct relationship with this. And in my meetings with them, they seem to have a different feeling about what is happening and why. And so I think we need to reconcile that so that when we move forward, we're working together, not with one just taking and the other one just receiving. Thank you.
Council Vice Chair Kiley?
Thank you. I supported this early on in the process, and I am glad to hear that it's proposed that it's going to go to Fiscal Committee, because I do think that it needs to be examined a little more closely in terms of the relationship, and hopefully we can involve the other entities, not only the city, but potentially the counties, the state, and the school districts. And I emphasize school districts because we have several school districts within the Sioux Falls city limits, as well as the other service providers, in addition to Prairie View and prevention. So thank you for bringing this forward. And again, I think the key here is that the funding, once again, emphasize there's no guarantee it's going to go forward after this deadline. So there has to be a collaboration between all of these parties and entities.
Councilors, all good comments. Thank you very much. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you, Council. Councilors, any other amendments?
Mr. Clerk,
Councilor Erickson?
Yep. Mr. Clerk, will you please read Amendment 5 that Councilor Erpenbach and myself have proposed?
Amendment 5, a motion to amend the main motion by Councilor Erickson to amend the 2017 general fund budget by reducing $26,500 from highway and streets, reducing $123,500 from parks and recreation, and increasing the economic development budget $150,000 to fund the USD Discovery District.
Second, Erpenbach. Thank you.
There's been a motion by Councilor Erickson, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach to amend the general fund. Councilor Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I talk about the actual amendment, we've kind of done things a little differently, and I just want to draw attention to that to make sure that the public does understand that this is the operating funds. It is not the second penny. It is not any particular project. So the last thing we want is someone thinking that a particular project is not getting done. This is general operating. The last three amendments that you've heard will have 0.23% impact on our budget. So I just want to put that in perspective as we're talking about these amendments and some of the things that you're hearing come from the vision of this City Council. So with that, Mr. Mayor, if I can just talk about this particular amendment briefly. The USD Discovery District, I've had a decent amount of time and impact conversations with them over the last 4 years. During my time in the legislature, there was an amendment for $1 million from the state, which was really unheard of to get for a specific area and get that seed money. It did not come with a lot of heartache and a lot of controversy from people up in the Brookings area to secure this funding from Sioux Falls. It really was that seed money. From that time, we've seen the city fund some funds through the USD Discovery District, $150,000 last year, I believe. That did come through as a special line item, and it really was highlighted in our last budget, the importance of the funding to be a line item and highlight that partnership between the USD Discovery District as well as the City of Sioux Falls. This council did support that throughout the way, last budget, and so I'd ask for your support again. This really is to continue to build the strong relationship between the city, the state, the Board of Regents, the University of South Dakota, and the Sioux Falls business community. This really is about job creation, having biomedical engineer, and really diversifying our job base here in Sioux Falls. Upon researching this and talking about this, I asked many questions of what does Brookings do? A city of 23,000 is giving $150,000 and has pledged that for 10 years. Envision Brookings is giving $120,000. I do not want us to be comparing, so to speak, but I want you to put that in perspective. A town this size and our investment to the USD Discovery District. Councilor Urbanbach and I have had many conversations in regards to this amendment. We've kind of put the brakes on at times and have recently decided that we really believe that this is a great use of funds for our community and the impact of our community, and I'd ask you to support this as well.
Councilor Buck.
Thank you,
Councilor Erickson, thank you. Councilor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Erickson. It has been an interesting collaborative experience, and I think that we're really expressing, as you said, the vision of this council as a whole when we start talking about this. So, a couple of other things I wanted to highlight is, one, that this city did make a commitment to the Discovery District a year ago in terms of that $150,000 pledge, as did the City of Brookings for their research development park. And I think that it's important for us to keep that pledge, that we really did say we're going to put $150,000 toward this every year, and that we're going to do this. And we, you know, it was a gentleman's agreement, I guess is what you would call it. And for us to not do that now is going back on a lot of the principles that I think that we all hold. A couple other things to remember then too is that that money that Councilor Erickson is talking about, that $1 million from the state, it really did come with some strings, that the city needs to be involved with that we are jeopardizing state funds if we aren't going along with this. As Councilor Erickson said, other cities are doing it. It's kind of embarrassing to me. I mean, you're trying to be nice and not compare, but it's kind of embarrassing that a small town is saying, yep, we'll do it, and we'll do it for 10 years. So I think we really need to be involved with that. And it's also important to remember that we did increase our funding to Forward Sioux Falls this year, but we don't have direct control over that money, and we really do have to say to the Discovery District, to the state, and to those partners that are involved that we are in for the full $150,000. And then just to reiterate what Councilor Erickson said in terms of the total impact on the budget for these last 3 amendments that you've seen, it is, if you take out labor and benefits, if you take that line item out of the budget and just look at what's left in the operating funds, we're only affecting about 2.3% of the total budget with these 3 amendments. So it's really a very insignificant number. Not that any number is insignificant, but in terms of the big picture, these are things that speak to the vision of this group, and they don't have a huge financial impact overall. So I request your support.
Councilor Buck, thank you. Council Chair Rolfing.
Again, while I support this, and I told you both that I do, my concern right now is that we've taken $350,000 away from the streets and basically public works of their operating funds. And I think there might be more coming. Have you guys all checked with them to make sure that this is, that they are okay with this? They know where the funds are coming from, et cetera, et cetera.
If I might, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Buck.
It really is, it's not a skimming, but it is that idea that we aren't saying, we're going to take this money and you have to give up that in particular. We're saying we're taking this money to put into these things that really fund the vision of this city council, and that there are going to be cost adjustments that those specific departments, and it is not just highways and streets. If you listen to the changes, they really do come out of highways and streets, parks and rec, and I'm not seeing it all, but it's not just highways and streets. And so I think it's important to understand that in the past we have said, you must cut that in order for us to fund this.
Well,
we're not saying that this time.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Urbanbach, are you done?
Yes.
Okay, Councilor Erickson?
And just to piggyback off of that, this really allows the flexibility for the budgets, for the directors to figure out, instead of me coming in and saying, okay, this item, this item, this item, okay, you're not going to do that anymore, cut this off. Instead, it says, these are what we want to see happen. You know, the budget's an interesting deck of cards where you start pulling pieces out, and in the past, we've kind of just used reserves. And this year, we're saying, no, we want it to equal out. Our sales tax is not growing at the rate we've projected, and so we want it to even out. And so this allows that flexibility for each of those departments in using a different MOU to make sure that these projects that this council sees happens. And like we talked about, the percentage is tiny.
Mr. Mayor?
Council Chair?
Well, I understand what you're doing, and I do. We've still taken, by my recollection or my math, $350,000 from streets. Why not take a very small amount from every department? Because no matter what you say, they're going to be $350,000 short. They're going to have to find something in operations to cut. If what you're saying is it's a small amount, wouldn't it make more sense to say to libraries, to health, to everybody that this is an easy way to take care of it by just taking 1/10 of 1% from everybody?
Tracy, I'm going to ask you if you'd come forward, please. Help explain to the council how amendments like this will work if there's not specific items cut, just in the spirit of making this a more productive time.
I'll give that a shot.
Thank you.
And I don't have the amendment that's on the table now. That's one that wasn't pre-printed for us, so I'm not sure I got my notes correct in terms of where those dollars were coming from. I believe it was 123.5 from parks and 26.5 from highways and streets.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Say that again,
So if that's the case, then I think the total of the 3 amendments that we've talked about so far, the 2 that you've approved that reduce highways and streets, and then this one that's on the table now, would be somewhere around $225,000. The approach that the Public Works Department and the Parks Departments will take, they will reevaluate their budgets and look at priorities and manage their programs with fewer dollars. But make no mistake, there are consequences to those reductions. I mean, those dollars are targeted for specific programs, whether it's in the case of highways and streets for pothole patching or snow removal or doing other sorts of street maintenance, crack sealing, all those things that the Public Works Department is responsible for and that are funded out of their general fund budget. In the case of parks, I mean, it's no mystery what those folks do. They maintain our parks, they take good care of our parks, and frankly, this is a year where budgets are fairly lean, so to take more from parks is going to make it more difficult for them to continue to maintain the level of service and the quality of parks that they have. So, but they will manage. I mean, these are dollars that they won't have. It's strikes me as odd to call it giving them more flexibility. You're taking money away from them and saying they have more flexibility. So I'm not quite sure I buy that argument. But be that as it may, they will manage and they'll do the best they can based on the priorities that they are responsible for.
Tracy, you did a very good job. Perfect. Before I go back to Councilor Erickson, Councilor Starr.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I've been reluctant to support this at the beginning, but what I've said all along in my term on the council is that if we're going to spend money on economic development, whether it's TIFs or whatever program we do, it's going to be for jobs that pay a living wage. The USD Discovery District is going to create jobs that start in that $75,000 to $100 range is where they're projecting it to go. If we're going to invest in economic development in our community, we have to have jobs that pay living wages and people who can raise a family and continue to make Sioux Falls a great place. We're going to attract researchers, pharmaceutical and biopharmaceutical companies from around the world. We've seen that already begin in our community, and this gives us the opportunity to continue that. It's a small price to pay, and it's a good use if we're going to invest in economic development. I always go back to that story about when is the best time to plant a tree. It was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And we need to move forward and continue to watch this project grow. It's one of the things that, again, I've said, my job here as a counselor is to provide not only a great community to live in today, but for my children and grandchildren. And we're going to look back on this project and watch the development, the USD Development District grow, and we're going to see some really great things over the next 20 to 50 years.
Before I go back to Councilor Erickson, any other? Councilor Erickson.
Thank you, and I'll be very brief. When I said flexibility, it offers the flexibility to cut those items they see fit, not what I'm telling them they have to do. So the last statement I just want to make is, we've heard a little bit about, having to tighten up. There's nothing left on the table for us to appropriate. We hold the purse strings, right? We're told that often. I don't know how many times, well, Counselor, you hold the purse strings. You're right, we do, and why don't we get to have our vision? Why can't we have 2 or 3 things that we think are important that we want to see through? It's not harmful. I'm not saying anybody's saying it's harmful, but it's okay for us to have priorities, and I hope that you vote for this amendment. Thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Staley,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Councilors, any other amendments?
Mr. Mayor, I have an Amendment 6, if the clerk could read it, please.
Okay.
A motion to amend the main motion by Councilor Starr to amend the 2017-2021 Entertainment Tax Fund budget and 2017 budget by moving $42,000 from 2017 to 2018 engineering and moving $230,000 from 2018 to 2019 construction, project number 13013, Sioux Falls Stadium Improvements, page 91.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Starr made an amendment to the entertainment.
Would you like me to read
No, I don't. In the spirit of transparency, Council, one of the reasons that the administration and the chair of this particular meeting likes to have things before them is in the spirit of transparency, in the spirit of making this a more productive environment. It's always a request on behalf of the people of Sioux Falls and the administration to have these things before the meeting takes place. And we often hear in the executive branch just how important transparency is, just how critical it is to serve the citizens and to make the teamwork amongst the council and the executive branch just even better and more collaborative in the spirit of teamwork. We're just presented 2 amendments where we had no idea about any of these. Mm-hmm. So if we seem confused, Sioux Falls, I apologize on behalf of the people. I apologize, but we didn't have them. So I don't want you to repeat it. There was an amendment. It was made by Councilor Starr. It was seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Starr.
I'd be happy to explain, Mayor. What this amendment does is it takes the $42,000 that was appropriated or proposed for engineering in the Sioux Falls Canaries stadium. And what stood out to me is that I think we need an entire plan for the entertainment district. We're putting a Band-Aid on locker rooms and trying to make short-term improvements where I would like to see us come forward with an entire plan for the stadium, whether it's to continue its use at the entertainment complex that we have, or if it moves downtown. And again, I'm not saying that I'm in favor of moving it downtown by any means, but what I am saying is that rather than putting a Band-Aid to make the locker rooms better, which do need the visitor locker rooms do need improvement, what I'd like to do is I'm not spending the money. It will continue to stay unappropriated, and ask that the Parks and Rec and the administration come back with a plan that studies the entire district and the entertainment processes for our community.
Councilor Starr, thank you. Councilor Bach, did you have a comment on this as well?
I did not.
That's okay. Councilor Starr, I appreciate that explanation. Councilors, any comments or questions on this? And I don't know if the administration has any comments, but that's okay. Council Vice Chair Kiley.
I would just like clarification. So the $42,000 would just be delayed from 17 to 18? And the $230,000 would be delayed from 18 to 19?
Correct. And it gives the administration and the Parks Department a chance to come back to us with a plan that looks at the entire complex.
Councilor Neisert, sir?
I guess I'd like to know from Director Kearney what the status of the stadium is at this point, and if we have anything else that we know we need to do to it.
Councilor Neisert, I appreciate that immensely, and because I don't have the answer either. Councilor, sorry, Don?
Yeah, well, the visitors' locker room was the project that we're going to do as part of the entertainment tax. I think at our hearings, our budget hearings in the past, we've explained that we're trying to bring that up to more current standards compared to what, for example, our home locker room is. So, so that is the scope of the project, if that's the question.
Well, if I could follow up, so I guess what I was getting at is that what is the status of the entire, what state is the entire facility in? Is there large outlays we know are coming? Is it in good shape? Has it got a lot of years left?
We have made some repairs in this last year. We've done some renovations to the upper portion of the stadium where it had some railing that was coming loose. We fixed that. But one of the recommendations from our engineering team is to have an overall assessment of the entire facility made from a structural standpoint, but by no means were we proposing to do any overall entertainment district or wider perspective than that.
Okay. Don, thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, Councilor Neisert, sir?
One last follow-up.
Sure.
If we do this and you do your study, is there any risk that you see that we would end up having to rip it back out?
Well, it's just another year of having an inferior locker room.
Well, no. What I mean is, if we go forward and you do this project, do you see that that anything would cause you to then tear out what you just upgraded?
Not that I can see.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Council Vice Chair Kiley.
Don, do we have commitments to the users of the facility in terms of what we're discussing here this evening?
Yeah,
either contractual or verbal?
Obviously, we have conversations every fall with the Canaries, and we sit down and meet with them on an annual basis as to what are the needs of the facility, and we try to budget for those. And it's not a new issue. It's something that we've kind of talked about over the years, but really think it's time to get it done.
And also, could you just remind us what are some of the past improvements that we have made to the stadium here and how recent those are?
Well, when the Canaries first came to town, there was a $5 million investment in that stadium to get it up to standard for them to be able to play. And then over the course of every year, there are some operational things we do painting, we do caulking, and just annual operational maintenance type activities within the stadium. The Canaries every once in a while will make some enhancements to it as well, but just this repair this last year is really the only significant thing that I can think of that we've done as far as other related improvements, and that was more of a repair.
Thank you.
You bet.
Council Chair Rolfing.
Don, or Director Kearney, can the $240,000, is that enough to do a entire assessment for the entertainment area out there as to what should or could be done in the future?
You know, I really don't know what the scope of that whole project that's being discussed would involve, so I wouldn't even want to venture a guess of what that would cost.
If I may?
No, please.
Counselor Starr, did you look into that and see how much that would cost?
No, I didn't, because actually that's an 18 expense then out of the, what all I did was, the amendment takes the 42,000 for engineering and allows them to, it's unappropriated funds. So if that's something that they chose to do as a park, it's kind of similar to the last amendment that I didn't want to direct them exactly how to do it. But what I didn't want is the stadium to continue to be patched together in improvements. Let's do something big like we do in Sioux Falls. Maybe that area needs to be parking. Maybe it needs another location. Something before we continue to put $250,000 into repairing the locker rooms over the next 2 years. Let's look a little more holistically at the entire stadium.
I think, though, isn't it $45,000 into the locker room, and then the $250,000 into studying the structural and what might possibly need to be done with Canary Stadium? Have I got that right?
There's two pieces of it. One is to design the locker room improvements and construct them.
So the
and then there's
45
another
is
one to
design.
do the assessment of the structure itself.
Okay, now I've got it. Okay.
Counselors, very good. There's been I am going to have you, Tom, read the amendment just so that the council is clear on what they're voting for. Thank you,
I will.
Tom.
A motion to amend the main motion by Councilor Starr to amend the 2017-2021 Entertainment Tax Fund budget and 2017 budget by moving $42,000 from 2017 to 2018 engineering and moving $230,000 from 2018 to 2019 construction, project number 13013, Sioux Falls Stadium Improvements, page 91.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Council. I'm sorry, Councilor Neisert, sir. My apologies.
Thank you. I guess I have to, as I think about this, I think there's an assumption that we would sink money into this and then we would bulldoze the stadium in a couple of years for parking. It seems like I can't imagine it's anywhere near its useful life. I don't know if that would be a beneficial thing for the taxpayers. So I can't support this. Thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
No.
Selberg?
No.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
No.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kiley?
No.
Neitzer?
No.
That amendment has failed. 3-5. Is there Amendment 7, Tom?
There is.
There is an Amendment 7.
Would you read Amendment
Tom?
7?
I will. A motion to amend the main motion by Councilor Staley to amend the 2017-2021 Capital Improvement Program and 2017 budget by reducing $50,000 2017 from project number 14022, Development of Play Structures 2017 to 2021, page 104, and increasing the Highways and Streets 2017 capital budget $50,000 for newly created project Solar Speed Safety Signs.
I'll second that for discussion purposes.
Councilor Staley has made an amendment to the budget, seconded by Councilor Neitzer. Councilor Staley.
This amendment, and some of you may, there is some brochures up there with a little package that I put together, but this idea came to my mind as I was driving through Minnesota this summer. And it was so effective as I would come into these little towns. You see the signs up there. It would flash. The speed limit sign was right on top of it. And I was thinking, gee, I wonder if we have these placed around Sioux Falls, because I think they're a great tool for calming the traffic. So I did a little investigation, and I had seen the speed trailers around our community in the past, and found out that we do indeed have 3 of those within our community. So I again did a little more investigation, thought I'd start calling around and seeing like how much these things would cost. So I called Radar Sign. This company provides these signs across the state. And I did call across the state as well, and I will be talking about that in a minute. So we've got a price estimate, and of course I know this would go out for a bid or be checked upon by the people buying it. But I compared this with another company I called, and it was very reasonable. But 10 solar signs
would be $3,595 per sign. So we're talking about $35,950. And they come with a bracket that I got the postage in there, and they also, we would be buying a traditional speed sign to go with it. They're giving us a customer discount of $5,000. So the total cost is $32,800. A 2-year warranty. These things are easy to move, low maintenance, and they are also available with the tracking information that would be $2,500 extra. Now, the nice thing about these signs is that they can be mounted on light poles or just regular poles. And they have the brackets, so as I mentioned before, they can be moved. Then I talked with Heath, I always say his name, Hofsize, yeah. And Heath is from the traffic engineering department, and I was asking him some questions, and he affirmed that we already are using these signs within our school district, and they're effective. We are not using these signs in our residential areas. And we talked about moving the speed trailers around, as number 2 there, and he said that the police department does take care of that, and they are a little bit more bulky and labor intensive to move. And we talked to number 4 about how they do stick out into the street a little bit. And number 4, I said to Heath, I said, you seem to view the addition of pole-mounted solar signs in notorious complaint areas as a possible benefit for our community. You said you would appreciate it and they would be used if they were available. He responds that, and he would be here tonight, but he's out of town. That is correct. We have explored the concept of what you were proposing a couple of years ago, and our biggest concern was what the expectation would be for relocation times. The 3-month rotation that you are talking about would be reasonable to work with. And I was proposing that we could, they've got lists of complaints of people who want some kind of a presence there for at least a period of time. So moving on, Heath also checked into the police department for me from Sergeant Randall Brink, and he said that he was talking about the speed trailers, and this is this next thing. They are battery powered, so they don't last much longer than the 5 days. Now, the signs I'm advocating for are solar powered, so they don't have the battery that you have to worry about. They're refreshed with the sun. We only use them during the late spring, no snow through fall. So the ones I'm proposing, we'd be using them year round. They are not placed out in the winter due to a few reasons. They don't last long in the cold, and we don't want them being in the way for snow alerts. And then I thought it was interesting that he says in the next paragraph that they are 200 deep right now in complaints, or people who want to have some service. The 3 speed trailers are not going to be able to address the 200 in a real timely manner. I called around to different sheriff's departments and communities that use these, and I've been driving all across Sioux Falls or South Dakota this summer, and again, every time I come into these communities, I think, wow, that is really a valuable tool. City of Ipswich, the finance officer says, we feel that the signs have been a good investment for community safety, and we have no accidents on Highway 12 in the city limits since the signs have been installed. I have the Gerald's County Sheriff's Office. Their sheriff says, I believe this unit has been a very vital tool to help reduce speeds in these areas and keep our young kids safe. Dewey County Sheriff's Office. We would definitely recommend use of radar signs to help with speed compliance and for assistance in reduction of speed-related accidents in problem areas. The town of Kennebec. We are very happy with our purchase. However, we do recommend that you invest in solar-powered system to power said sign, as we use battery-operated, and it seems to be more maintenance. So that's just a few of those. So what I'm proposing we do is we're going to take this $50,000. What I'd like to do is take it out of the playground equipment fund for the park department. They currently have allocated $528,000 for playground equipment. And of course, I'm not trying to take any fun away from children, But I think spending $50,000 to try this out for our community and see if the residents like this, I think would be very valuable. And I also wanted to address something else, Mayor, since you brought this up, and Councilor Erickson mentioned this. This is our first time in the budget session, and it really is, it's a challenge because we are presented with a budget that's already concreted up. Everything's been accounted for, and so then we're coming in and trying to implement our ideas, and it's like we have to chisel away at the concrete to try to find the money, take it away from something else, and try to inject our ideas, we all have good ideas, I think. So I looked around. We have a great budget analyst who helps us look for money that may not have a high impact on a certain area. And so I just wanted to propose this year. It may pass, it may not. I just think the community would really enjoy having these available for like a 3-month period. They take the bracket off, move it to the next area. So that's my story.
Councilor Staley, thank you. And before I go to the other councilors, I don't know if the directors have been made aware of this, but I do think that in the spirit of making this a productive meeting, and with all due respect to Councilor Staley, Director Kearney, Director Cotter, Chief Burns, do you have any comments to this item? And if you do, Chief Burns, get up there, and Director Kearney, get ready.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I wasn't made aware that this amendment was coming forward. Clearly, there's been some conversations with Heath. We have these style of units near schools, and they've been effective. The mobilizing of them, we've not done. And so the one thing that I would encourage you to do is give us a chance to do that once for this year. We'll take one of ours and move it every 3 months. We want certainly the type that you can actually cull the information off so we can actually see what the speeders are doing, and then come back to you with some information as opposed to going out in this next budget cycle and buying 10. And so I'll certainly find that within our budget to buy one and then come back to you next year. That would be my recommendation.
Chief Burns.
Thank you. I concur with Director Cotter. If we are going to invest in these, they should have the computer component to capture the data so then we can use that data to better focus our enforcement.
Thank you, Chief. Director Kearney.
Yeah, I was not aware of that either, but this program that we have for playground replacement currently replaces our playgrounds every 20 years, and so this would reduce one of the playgrounds that we'd be able to fund as part of our project.
Thank you. Now, councilors, my apologies. Councilor Neitzer, did you have a comment, sir? Did anybody else have a comment other than Councilor Staley? Councilor Erickson.
I just have a question. Maybe I don't know if it's for Teresa or and I should probably know this, so I'm sorry for the question, but appropriating the money doesn't say you have to buy this. It's appropriating the money, and then if they want to have the extra data to collect and see who's speeding, what times of the day, et cetera, that can be reported back. So if it means instead of buying 10, we buy 7, that can happen if we increase that component. Is that fair to say? I mean, it's not like you're saying we have to buy 10 of these. You just did your homework and your research to show, well, if we appropriate this much, this is about what we can get, and go from there.
Exactly.
Okay, that's just my question. Thank you.
Council Chair Rolfing.
Yes. Couple of questions for Councilor Staley. First of all, if you take the 2,500 and the 32H, you come up with about $35,000. Why not do 35 instead of 50?
Well, because I conferred with our budget analyst, and I said, again, this is a new thing. So I said, geez, should I say 40,000? Do I say 50,000? And we concurred that if we did, it's probably better to allocate a little more. And if we didn't use it all, I would make an amendment down the road that we would put that money back into the play system. But I also want to say that you see that there's not any support with the directors. So if it's something I think is important, that probably shows us why we don't always reveal things, because if we're going to have it shot down, I mean, then why would we put that out there? Well, I mean, they aren't supportive of it, but I still think it's an important thing.
Excuse me, may I?
Yes, Council Chair.
This is exactly why things need to be made public so that they can be looked at and gone over ahead of time so that compromises or other ideas can be brought forward on this, such as what Director Cotter said, maybe we buy 1 or 2 this year, see how they work, and if they work well, then we'll bring it and put it in part of our budget. And I would go just the opposite. That's why we are transparent and we put these things ahead, and we get cooperation from the rest of the council ahead of time also, rather than drop it on us at one time too. So, okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Are there any other comments regarding the purchase of this particular item? We'll stay focused on the amendment, please. Council Vice Chair Kiley.
Question, it could be to Director Cotter or to Chief Burns, and then I do have a follow-up, well, possibly for Director Kearney. Is there other funding sources, available grant sources that could possibly be accessed for items of this nature?
Potentially. That's the ones that we have up today were primarily funded by grants. And so that gives us that flexibility that allow us to either take one of our existing ones or maybe buy 1 or 2. And we want to make sure that we have 2 things, so we can actually get the data off, so we can see if it's an enforcement area or if it was a short period of time. To me, I think that's to jump from either right into this program and then having to move 10 of them around in multiple areas of the city. That's a pretty major jump when we don't do that today. And we have that traffic team has already 260 signalized intersections to maintain each and every day, 365 days a year. There's a lot of work that team already carries out. So I would just encourage you to not jump to 10. This is one of them I can certainly find in our traffic control budget, move it around every quarter, and then we can come back with you and give you an update next year.
And it could be for the next question could be for either one of you. Do you typically know what is the grant timeline, and this would be through the Department of Highway Safety? What?
Yes, in fact, that was just awarded this past week for 2017, so that's concluded for the next budget year.
So it would have to go in for 18 at the earliest?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good job. Good questions. Councilor Selberg.
Thank you. Director Cotter, just 1 second. So you're saying keep things as they are. You'd probably get 1 or 2 of these to kind of work into this program. Am I getting that answer correctly?
Certainly. This is something that Heath looked at about 2 years ago, and it's just like everything in the budget that you guys see, it comes down to priorities. But this is something that we can easily work within that budget, buy 1 or 2, and then mobilely move them around to one of the lists of the problem areas, and then come back to you with some data.
Okay, thank you. I would just add, I appreciate, thank you, the due diligence that you did, Councilor Staley did on this. I think obviously did your homework, spent some time. I think it makes sense. I may vote no just for the fact of hearing that answer where they're going to work in with you on this program and they're making an effort there. So,
very good. Thank you, Councilor Selberg. Councilor Erickson.
Erpenbach.
Oh gosh, Councilor Erpenbach.
We look a lot.
My apologies.
Two.
Don't dig it any deeper.
Councilor Erpenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to, I don't want to sound preachy, but I want to disagree with some of the public comment earlier where it was pointed out to us that the City Council is not a team, that we're not supposed to work together, that we're not supposed to share information with each other, and we should be up here fighting tooth and nail. This is one of those times when, if we had conversation as a team, which many of us did, and you see that in that list of amendments, you see teamwork. You see people crossing whatever strange boundaries we have with our value systems. You see us, working out what's best for the community. This is one of those times when we need to have a conversation. And I asked very specifically yesterday of Councilor Staley, what does Chief Burns say about this? And her comeback to me was limited, but the thing that stuck with me is the one that keeps coming up is this 200 bad areas of these 200 problem areas of speeding. And so I asked Chief Burns about that specifically, and of course now my phone went black. But he said specifically to me that the 200 speed complaint zones in Sioux Falls, I'm reading from an email from Chief Burns. I apologize, Chief Burns, I didn't tell you I was going to do this. But not nearly all of those is it appropriate or safe because of parking restrictions to use speed trailers. That's an important distinction. I just want the citizens to understand there are not 200 horrible, really speedy places in town. That these are just, this was just, yeah, there's 200 places out there where it's like me. I always tell Director Cotter that I live on the Arcadia Speedway. Yeah, I've got a lot of speed traffic, right? I'm one of those 200. You're not going to put a trailer there because, yeah, well, you can set a police cruiser there and it stops it right like that. It's far more effective. So I want you to help. I want you to start learning about teamwork, that we are 8 individuals, but that we work as a team. And I want you to understand as citizens that it is not as bad as we sometimes sound like up here. And so that's just my statement. I'm voting no because I believe that our administrators understand what's going on. So thank you.
Council, we've had great discussion on this item. Councilor Staley,
Well, since I proposed this, let me say that I did discuss this with other councilors beforehand, and I know other amendments were happening that I wasn't told about beforehand. Okay, you never called me and told me about your amendments. So I'm saying I have talked with people about it. They may not like it. Maybe they don't accept it. I did propose it, and I sent packages of information out to people as I was doing this. But we are not told on the city council that there's a certain time limit when, everybody has a different idea of when they release their amendments. But exactly what you said, where the speed trailers wouldn't work in those areas, that is the place where these things on the poles would. And I think if we could come out to the community and say, hey, we're going to offer this, we have this for you, it was a $50,000 investment, I think citizens would be really excited about it.
Been great discussion on this item, Council. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
No.
Selberg?
No.
Starr?
No.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
No.
Erpenbach?
No.
Kylie?
No.
Neitzer?
No.
That has failed 1-7. Is there an Amendment 8, Tom?
Yes, there is, Mayor. It's mine.
Councilor Starr, why don't you let the people of Sioux Falls and the executive branch know what that is?
All right. Okay. Mr. Clerk, if you could read it.
Amendment 8, a motion to amend the main motion by Councilor Starr to amend the 2017-2021 Capital Improvement Program and 2017 budget by deleting construction expenditures of $15,215,000 and remove funding sources bond fees of $14,320,000. In the description, strike "and construct," and after development add sentence, "Bond funding for construction will be determined after the design process is complete." New parking facility, project 19002, page 156. The description shall read, "Design an aesthetically attractive parking structure in downtown Sioux Falls that complements the surrounding area, which may include mixed-use private development. Bond funding for construction will be determined after the design process is complete."
Second, Erpenbach.
There's been a motion to amend. Is it the capital budget? Must be the
Capital Improvement Program and 2017 budget.
There's been a motion to amend the CIP budget, and it has been seconded. Councilor Starr.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. What I'm trying to accomplish here is that in the new parking structure, or the new parking facility as it's labeled, is that we remove the funding at this point until we see a completed plan. What I would like to see is a continued effort to make a public-private partnership of this facility. What I have not done is remove the enterprise funds, so there's still $3 million, so the project can continue on just like it is right now. But once the plan is completed, putting the horse back in front of the cart and seeing a completed plan on what we plan to accomplish with this facility before we approve the bond funding.
Council, and again, before I go to you, I don't know if Matt or Darren if you're aware of this, but I think it's probably best in the spirit of productivity, maybe listen and respond as best you can.
Sure. Matt Nelson, Public Parking Facilities Manager. Absolutely, we can talk about the dollar amount, and this was presented in the informational before when we talked about the budgets. No, we were not aware of this. The $17.9 million would cover a facility up to 600 spots. I think we do not have any concept or final designs yet. I don't think that would be uncommon for project of the city. There's a lot of budget items that you'll see in there, and there are no plans that would be specific yet. I can tell you where it's going to go. I can tell you approximate size. I can tell you our goal is to have a mixed-use facility, and I can tell you that we want to have it be aesthetically pleasing.
Darren, any comments before I go to the council?
Darren Ketchum, Director of Community Development. Counselor, I think what you're asking for is a mixed-use facility that is aesthetically pleasing, and that's what the city has proposed in the CIP. Like many projects, we get that funding appropriated. We go out, we do the design work with our partners. We're currently underway with that design work. Once we have that completed, we do have a regular update scheduled that we'll bring to the council on the project, and certainly we could answer any questions at that time, but we feel that we are meeting kind of what you're asking for as the project is currently planned.
Thank you both. Council, I know questions or comments on Councilor Starr's amendment. Councilor Neisert?
Can somebody explain to me if this is done, will there be enough money to get you to the end of design? I think what the goal is so that we don't implicitly, I think what I heard is so that we don't implicitly authorize bonding before we've seen a plan. I think that's what I heard.
Correct. And
Matt, but before, just to help, rather than thinking what we heard, Councilor Starr, did Councilor Neisert hear you, and did he think correctly?
I believe he heard me correctly. That was
Believe
my intent.
or he did?
He did hear me correctly.
Very good.
If that's
Very
what
good.
you'd
So
like.
Councilor Neisert, great job. It was confirmed. Matt?
It would get us a portion of the way through. I'd have to look at the numbers. I know there's potentially $1 million storm sewer relocation in there. There's planning fees. There's architecture and engineering fees. It would be fairly close. I think it would get us through a portion of it. That being said, as you know, there's a very public document that's out that is our CMAR process that's out right now, and there is a very pretty specific timeline in it, and it talks about the bonding timeline, and we're shooting for over 12 months before we would even issue bonds next year. By that time, we would have final design, and we would bring it back and present it. And before those bonds were approved, you would see a rendering, designs, we'd have blueprints, but we're just not there yet. So there are gates in before we start constructing in this process of approval. My concern is that we do have private partners involved. We want to make sure that the city council and the city of Sioux Falls is supportive of this, and it does put some doubt on for our private investors that want to be partners with us if we're not approving this. And that's my major concern.
Matt, thank you. And Tracy, any comments in terms of a budgetary perspective that you'd like to make? And if not, I don't want to lead you to do it. You may just want to sit down, but I just want to make sure. Again, you don't have to, Tracy.
No, I'm not sure I have a lot to add other than to echo what Matt said in terms of the perception from other investors that are going to put a lot of their private dollars on the line to help us develop this project. And if I'm that investor and the council won't even put it in the plan without a firm commitment, I mean, barring a firm commitment from to actually sell bonds, because approving it in the plan does not authorize selling bonds. But if you're not willing to even put it in the plan as an investor, I would certainly have reservations about how serious the city really is about having a mixed-use facility. And it's not necessarily a budgetary concern, but it's certainly a concern about the project moving forward.
Councilor Erickson.
I'm good, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Neisert, did you have oh wait, before I go to Councilor Neisert, just in the spirit of the rules, anybody else have any comments before I go back to Councilor Neisert? Councilor Selberg, thank you, sir. You're welcome.
So
So just so I'm clear, so before the bonding does take place, the plans that Councilor Starr is asking to see, they will be coming. Is that how I heard it? So what
Yes,
he's
once we
asking will happen
get
before.
a development agreement with our private partner and a design in place, those will be brought to the council. Additionally, prior to the bonds being sold, that also has to be brought back to the council. So the council will see the sale of the bonds again. Putting it in this plan does not mean bonds will be sold. You still have another option to weigh in.
Okay, thank you.
So would there be any harm in, just thinking this through, taking it out and then doing a supplemental later to add it back in, except for this perception problem?
Yes. You asked, would there be harm? Yes.
The harm being?
That if you don't put this in the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, there would be harm to the public-private partnership.
So I guess I don't want to belabor this, but it's kind of, we're going both ways. So on one hand, no, we're not committing to bonding by putting this in here, but we need to put it in here so that we essentially are telling our private partners that, yeah, we're going to bond.
Yes, we build that trust in that relationship with that private partner by including this in our planning process. They understand that the government funding and planning process includes budgeting for these items. They also understand that subsequently that bonds are required to be sold for this project to move forward. Leaving any of those steps in limbo creates unnecessary risk to this project, and it's unnecessary for our project to move forward, and it could hinder it or slow it.
Before I go back to Councilor Starr, just all due respect, Councilor Starr, did anybody else have any comments? Councilor Starr?
Absolutely. I guess maybe more of a response. We're saying to investors, we're engaged in this project because we're putting $3.4 million of cash that we have in the bank into this project. We're committed to it. And I think we're sending that message to investors. What we're saying is that we want to see the finalized plan. I think you made my argument for me that this isn't going to slow the process down. We're able to do the design. We're able to continue to move forward with what we're doing. What we're just saying is we're not going to do the bonds. We're not committed the bonds to it. And as you said, you're coming back to us to request that funding. So taking it out of the plan means that it's not there. You guys made the argument for me. I appreciate that.
Councilor, I respectfully disagree with your perception on this.
Very good. Good comments, good dialogue. I think folks understand it. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
No.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
No.
Neitzer?
Yes.
That is passed 6-2. Is there an amendment 9?
There is not.
Councilor Erickson.
I just want to make a quick comment if I can. It's not an amendment, but I just want to thank, I'm not sure if it was finance or exactly who was in charge of making it happen, but I did have some questions in regards to a couple of the descriptions and had asked if a few different words could be added, and they easily added them, putting some concerns I had at ease. And so I just want to say thank you for making those amendments without having to make an amendment. So thank you.
Very good. Folks, we have an amended motion, and if there's no other discussion, we are voting on the amended main motion, which is basically the budget for the fiscal year ending fiscal year ending December 31, 2017, and the 2017-2021 capital program. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. That is passed 8-0. Item 12.
Item 12, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing appropriations and the means of financing for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2017.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The ordinance does two things. It establishes the appropriations for the 2017 budget for just those 10 governmental or budgeted funds. they were included in the resolution that you just approved. The total appropriated budget would be about $268 million. The second thing the ordinance does is to establish the property tax levy, which provides funding for the 2017 general fund budget. That levy amount is estimated at $57.6 million. That does not include an inflationary increase per state law. And I would ask for your approval. Thank you.
Tracy, thank you. Folks, this is second reading. Did anybody want to engage the council on this topic? Councilors?
Move to approve, Neitzer.
Second, Erickson.
Councilor Knight, there's been a motion to adopt this ordinance, seconded by Councilor Erickson.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Chair Rolfing.
I would like to make a motion to amend this motion to reflect changes to the resolution adopting the budget and the capital program.
Second, Erickson.
Councilor Chair Rolfing's been a motion to amend to reflect the changes to the resolution adopting the budget and the capital program. That was seconded by Councilor Erickson. Any discussion on the amendment? Very good. A roll call vote, please, on the amendment.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
Councilors, thank you. That has passed 8-0. If there's no more discussion, a vote on the main motion as amended, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 13.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 4th, 2016 at 7 p.m. for item 13. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 155, Signs and Outdoor Advertising.
Greetings, Council. My name is Shauna Goldhammer. I'm your Zoning Enforcement Manager. I'm here to present a small amendment to the outdoor advertising that affects sign contractors. The beef of this ordinance is in Section 3, where we are going to be asking the sign contractors to help us with efficiency and call in for inspections. Currently, they are not required to call, call in for inspections for sign permits. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Councilors, would anybody want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 4th for this item?
So moved, Rolfing. Second, Starr.
Councilor Rolfing has made that motion, seconded by Councilor Starr. Thank you both. Councilor Erpenbach?
One quick question, Shauna. Yes. If they don't have to call in to get an inspection, how do they get in? Do you just divine it?
Right now, that's pretty much what we're having to do. Is it's very inefficient. We have to go out there sometimes several times before they actually hang the sign. They've never been required to call in inspections, but we certainly do provide that service to the city to make sure that the signs are out there as permitted.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Neisert. Shauna, don't go away.
Shauna, sorry.
Sorry. Yes.
As you recall, on the Board of Adjustment, we've had a few issues sort of in this territory. Would that help to sort of rectify things that we've seen in the past where a permit would quietly expire and there is no interaction?
This definitely clarifies the expiration of permits as well for signs.
Because the onus is on them to...
Call it in and get an inspection.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilors, great job. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you, Council. Item 14.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 4th, 2016 at 7 p.m. for item 14. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 612 South Williams Avenue from the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District to the RT1 Single Family Residential Traditional District, petition number 5352-2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0.
Jason Beaver representing Planning and Building Services. This is an application by Wayne Wagner with Affordable Housing Solutions. It's located, as he said, at 612 South Williams Avenue. It's currently a vacant lot. It's roughly 0.12 acres in size. The purpose of this application is for them to construct a single-family home on a lot that's less than 50 feet wide.
Jace, thank you. Council, would anybody want to set a date of hearing second reading for Tuesday, October 4th?
So moved, Rolfing.
Thank you.
Erickson.
Thank you, Councilor Rolfing, and thank you, Councilor Erickson, for that second. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
Council, that is passed 8-0. Item 15.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, October 4th, 2016 at 7 p.m. for item 15. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 600 South Lincoln Avenue from the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District to the RT1 Single Family Residential Traditional District, petition number 5351-2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0.
This is almost an identical application by Wayne Wagner with Affordable Housing Solutions. This one's located on South Lincoln Avenue. It's roughly the same size, a 0.12 acre vacant lot, and they are proposing to do a similar house on a lot that's less than 50 feet wide.
Councilors, would anybody want to set a date of hearing, second reading for Tuesday, October 4th for this item?
So moved, Erpenbach.
Second, Selberg.
Councilor Erpenbach's made that motion, seconded by Councilor Selberg. Councilor Erpenbach?
One just quick
No problem.
question, Jason, and we've done two in a row, and the thing that I want people to hear is affordable housing. This is an amazing thing that we're able to go in and do infill on those lots. We also have experienced, though, as a community, that some neighborhoods don't appreciate when this kind of thing happens. Is this something that we have to have some kind of meeting with the neighborhood? Is there some sort of conversation that will be had with the neighborhood? Or will these houses be such that they aren't a dramatic change to that neighborhood? Does that make, maybe it doesn't make
I think
sense.
most of the houses they build are pretty similar in size with the existing neighborhood. As we do with all rezoning requests, we do send out those letters. Most of the ones, if we get calls, they just have questions on what they're building there, and most of the time when they're single family, they really don't have any issues with them.
So we're changing zoning, so it will be a single family home and it will just fit on this smaller lot. I think that needs to be clear.
Exactly, yep.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Muck, good job. Councilor Neisert.
Yeah, I would just say, knowing Wayne and what Affordable Housing Solutions does, he has a very strong value to fit into the neighborhood and fit into the character, so I'm confident that he'll do a very nice job.
Thank you, councilors. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you, councilors. Item 16.
Item 17.
Item 17. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Mayor, I'll read this as it was amended earlier.
Thank you.
A resolution authorizing the Sioux Falls Public Works Street Division to sell 8,360 pounds of goods to Pennington County, South Dakota.
Very
Good
good.
evening.
Welcome.
Sorry. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dean Borkart with Public Works Division. I believe this resolution will need a similar amendment for the body of it, but I will give you an overview. These items have not been used in 10-plus years by the City of Sioux Falls since the transition to six-wheel motor graders for the snow removal process. At this point, we did estimate the salvage value to be approximately $1,500 and found a partner in Pennington County that is willing to purchase them for $2,000. This resolution would allow that transaction to take place.
Anybody in the audience want to talk to this? I didn't think so. Councilor Erpenbach.
Okay, so, Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to amend by replacing each reference to barrels with the word
Would you make a
pounds.
motion to approve?
I would do that. I am sorry,
You've been
Mr.
coaching
Mayor.
me
I
on
would
this for
make a
7
motion.
years. The first
You're
mistake Councilor Erpenbach's ever made in 7 years on
Yeah, right.
parliamentary procedure.
Right. Yes,
so
I would make a motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Erpenbach's going to make a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Erickson. Thank you both.
Then if I might
Councilor
continue to
Erpenbach.
stumble, thank you. I would make a motion to amend by replacing each reference to barrels with the word pounds throughout the ordinance.
Councilor Erickson, would you want to second it? Thank you, Councilor Erickson. We're voting on the amendment, folks. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Now we've got an amended motion. Would we vote? Let's vote on that, please.
Council members Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Great job, Council. Any other comments? Yes, Councilor Erickson.
I have a personal privilege.
Please,
My
absolutely.
son, who's 8 years old and a second grader, has been with me today since 3:30, and he has been a gem. So I just want to introduce my son, Braylon.
Hey, Ray. Wave your hand. Wave your hand.
When you get older, you don't have to deal with that anymore, son.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Counselor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Sioux Falls. Make it a great, great night.